How to Manage Grief as a College Student During COVID-19, a video for the whole program. Being a college student is no easy feat, especially when COVID-19 is in the picture. Grief is commonly thought of as a response to losing a loved one. While this is the case, there are numerous other losses that people grieve, such as the loss of a summer experience, the loss of a normal fall semester, the loss of normalcy, and so many other things that you have lost. This video is an overview of the topic of grief. Grief is a natural and normal response to a loss. Though we often expect to grieve the loss of a loved one, there are many other types of losses that can trigger grief. These losses may include the end of a relationship, moving to a new place, an anticipated opportunity that is taken away, or a loss of a pet. Anyone can experience grief, and reactions vary widely from person to person, and even the same person may experience grief uniquely at different stages. Grief can range from a sadness that lingers, hovering in the background of your daily life, to a complete emotional outbreak that interferes with normal daily activities. In general, dealing with a loss can be one of the most difficult things to endure. As a college student, working through grief can be even more of a challenge due to the college environment that is constantly stressful, demanding, and calls for independence. Grieving a loss is important, as it allows us to mobilize the energy that is attached to the loss, whether it is a person, object, or experience. By freeing up this energy, we are able to use it for other, more helpful tasks, though this is no easy feat, as grief is difficult to work through. Grief is not simply forgetting what happened or crying endlessly, hoping to feel better. Healthy grieving involves working to remember the importance and significance of the loss, with peace rather than intense pain. It is important to remember that although there are stages to grief, not all people will go through all of the stages or in the same order. Grieving is not a linear process, which is a common misinterpretation. Grief is unique to each individual, not universal. The first stage of grief is denial. Experiencing a loss can be overwhelming, and it is not unusual for people to respond to the intense emotions by pretending the loss didn't happen. Denying allows time for people to gradually take in the information and begin processing it, numbing the person to the world. The second stage of grief is anger. Anger is a masking effect. It is a way that people hide emotions and pain they are experiencing. Not everyone goes through the anger stage. As the anger passes, people are able to think more rationally about the situation and begin to feel the emotions that were being pushed away. The third stage of grief is bargaining. This stage of grief involves looking for ways to control your life or an event. In this stage, people create a what if and if only statement. Bargaining is a defense mechanism against feeling the emotions of grief and postpones the confusion and sadness. The fourth stage is depression. The depression stage is a quieter stage than the anger and bargaining stages. By this point in the grief process, you may be able to work through emotions in a healthy manner. Isolation is common in this stage, as you isolate yourself from others to cope with the loss. This stage is commonly overwhelming, leaving people feeling heavy and confused. The fifth stage is acceptance. This stage is not always a happy stage of grief, but it does indicate that you have accepted the loss and have realized what it means in your life. This stage often leaves people feeling different, which is normal due to the life change that took place. This stage is a way to understand that not all days will be bad after the loss. Kubler-Ross, who created the 5 stages of grief, says that they were never meant to help tuck messy emotions into neat packages. They are responses to loss that many people have, but there is not a typical response to loss, as there is no typical loss. Our grieving is as individual as our lives. So, how do you grieve? What does it involve? Healthy grieving is an active process, and just giving it time is not the best way to grieve. This active process involves accepting the finality of the loss, acknowledging and expressing the spectrum of feelings we experience as a result of the loss, adjusting to a life in which the lost person, object, or experience is absent, and saying goodbye to create a new peace with the loss. Dealing with grief is a process that takes a lot of energy and may cause you to temporarily be withdrawn from your normal activities. It is important to be gentle to yourself and treat yourself with the same care and tolerance you would extend to a friend in a situation like your own. Also, Your grief may look different throughout your grieving process, or you may experience grief that is completely different than any of the stages that were mentioned earlier. That is okay. There is no timetable for grief, and you do not need to go through all of the stages of grief to heal. Thank you for watching this video on grief. If you're looking for more resources, check out the whole program website.